Tonight on News 11, the Fredonia Faculty Student Association needs some cash, and we look how they're planning on cutting their spending. And last month, SUNY Oneonta switched to remote learning for the rest of the semester. Now, they're going through a change of leadership. And with less than 2 weeks until the election, Trump and Biden gear up for one final debate, but not after facing off in dueling town hall events. These stories and more, News 11 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to News 11. I'm Ryan Blotto.
And I'm Hope Winter. First tonight, we take a look at a piece of property that has been around for decades, the College Lodge Forest in Brockton, New York. Efforts are rising to preserve the land and to make sure it's not disturbed. Caitlin Reynolds takes us to the property to check it out.
Hiking through the trails and looking for different kinds of species is only two of many factors that make the visitors appreciate the College Lodge Forest. As the seasons change, so do the plans for this piece of property.
The 32 acres of the lodge brings in revenue. Unfortunately, the revenue isn't sufficient to offset the expenses.
The 168 acres of forest land that surrounds the College Lodge is looking to be sold, but the lodge itself is in safe hands with the SUNY Fredonia Faculty Student Association. FSA is giving the opportunity to the Western New York Land Conservancy to purchase the piece of property to keep it maintained. With efforts of the community, the Western New York Land Conservancy must collect $790,000 to purchase the land by the end of the year. If the goal isn't reached in time, there is a possible chance of the forest being logged.
Well, because it could be a profit for them. There's many varieties of hardwood trees on the property, so you could log it and it would be profitable.
Our goal is just to keep it how it is, right? We want to preserve the old growth trees and the biodiversity that's there, and keep it as a public nature preserve. So we're doing really good. I'm very optimistic. You know, of course, we need people to step up and donate, but we're doing good. So I'm optimistic.
The Friends of the College Lodge Facebook page is a community page that is putting together efforts to help save the land that they love.
I mean, I really like the marsh a lot, to be out on the water. But, the forest is beautiful. So some really nice wetland areas. So, yeah, so things won't change that much.
If you're interested in visiting the forest this fall, make sure you follow the color-coded trails. In Brockton, New York, I'm Caitlin Reynolds, News 11.
Many students have noticed that the prices of meal plans and on-campus food, especially in the C-store, have gone up quite a bit in the past few years. This is an effort by FSA to try to cover the expenses of the lodge property, which begs the question, is there anything students can do to save some money for themselves, or are they locked in these meal plans set by FSA? I'll be following this story as the Student Faculties Association moves forward with the sale.
And the president of SUNY Oneonta has resigned, Barbara Jean Morris. The university says Barbara Jean Morris has left to, quote, pursue other opportunities. This comes after the school had a massive outbreak of the coronavirus at the beginning of the semester. SUNY announced that the recent interim president of SUNY Purchase, Dennis Craig, will be a temporary replacement at Oneonta. In early September, Oneonta had over 700 people test positive for COVID-19, forcing the school to move completely remote for the remainder of the semester. The chancellor of SUNY, Jim Malatras, stated, quote, SUNY Oneonta is at a critical juncture, and acting president Craig will bring steady, focused, and collaborative leadership to the campus. SUNY Oneonta became the first of 64 colleges and universities within SUNY to move to complete remote learning.
And it's not just in the SUNY system. Cayuga College students switched to distance learning last Monday. The Yates County Public Health Department confirmed that 7 students had tested positive for the coronavirus. Cayuga has estimated a total of 134 students who may have been in contact. 78 of those students were off campus. The school transitioned into distance learning for a 2-week period, which began on Monday, October 12th. The college has put new guidelines in place to decrease density in areas areas on campus. Directed faculty and staff were deemed non-essential and will work remotely during the two-week period. The athletic center, classrooms, Leitner Library, and Norton Chapel have all been closed. They have also converted to 100% takeout at their dining halls.
And the Chautauqua-Cattaraugus Women's Action Group held the Pick Love, Unity, and Justice Women's March on Saturday. Jessica Meditz is there to tell us more.
October 17th is the day of the National Women's March. On that same day, the Chautauqua-Cattaraugus Women's Action Group brought the same spirit to our little college town. In 2017, Janie Wagner and Tina Rauza organized a bus ride to attend the Women's March in Washington, D.C.
When we got home, we decided that our efforts should not end there and that we should form a group that would respond to the types of crises that have been taking place ever since Donald Trump was inaugurated.
People from all walks of life attended the rally, which took place at Barker Commons in downtown Fredonia.
The goal of the march is to raise awareness for issues such as racial and economic disparity. But most of all, the organizers want people to feel empowered.
A number of guest speakers took turns with the mic, from veterans to actresses, in hopes of motivating everyone there and encouraging them to vote.
You have to embrace the idea of differences and that all people have a right to equality. All people have a right to love who they love, and that we must come together as a people. And until we do that, it's going to be very hard to accept diversity, change, equality.
Last month, the Chautauqua-Cattaraugus Women's Action Group held a candlelit vigil to honor the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. For News 11, I'm Jessica Meditz.
Thank you, Jess. If you missed the rally, you can show your support in other ways, such as signing petitions for causes you're passionate about and voting.
Well, SUNY has announced that it is canceling all study abroad programs for the winter and spring 2021 terms. For the past 3 years, Fredonia sends students to Honduras to participate in medical brigades in local communities. But because of the pandemic, this year's program isn't happening. Students are holding a fundraiser to get ready for whenever they can go again. The fundraiser is an art raffle, and each ticket is $10. The drawing will be on November 12th. As of right now, the Honduras medical program is set to go forward next summer. Last spring, when the pandemic hit, SUNY brought all students home and programs were canceled for the fall 2021 semester.
And finally tonight, before we go to break, with the season of giving just around the corner and the arrival of winter weather right after, those in need of our county can turn to a new initiative from a local foundation. Anna Gagliano tells us more in Dunkirk.
As the weather gets colder and colder, the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation wants to make sure everyone in the county has access to a fall and winter clothing necessity.
The Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation is trying to raise awareness that it's just as important to get new winter socks for yourself as it is to give them to others in need.
Socks are oftentimes one of the things that's donated the least and one of the things that's most appreciated and needed the most. So we thought that was our opportunity to roll out this October event.
The Lake Erie Grape Discovery Center in Westfield is one business participating in the drive.
It just shows the community spirit of giving and supporting other people, and I think our community is certainly a good example. The Great Belt region here of people caring for one another and donating for those who can use a good pair of socks this winter time.
And while this is the NCCF's first time running the event, it will now be a fall tradition.
And it's the first year the Community Foundation has done it, so I think that's going to be a very positive, it's going to be a good thing for a lot of years to come.
The NCCF will be accepting donations until October 31st. After, they will present all the socks to Meals on Wheels, the Mental Health Association, and other community programs in need. Anna Gagliano, News 11.
And those community programs will distribute the socks to those in need before winter arrives. For more info on Socktober, email the NCCF at info@nccfoundation.org. And when we come back, more election coverage. From the recent town halls to how voting works amid a pandemic. We'll be back.
Different kinds of pipes that freeze for different reasons. To protect yours, wrap insulation around exposed pipes. If a hard freeze is forecast, open the doors under sinks and let the hot and cold faucets trickle overnight. Leave the heat on if you're leaving town. Following these steps can get you through cold weather on a high note.
During World War II, recycling was a way of life on the home front. Rubber, tin cans, cooking grease, paper, scrap iron, those and many more items were recycled for the war effort. It was a time of crisis. The nation desperately needed new sources of raw materials. Millions of Americans were united in a common cause. Today we face a crisis no less real, but of another sort. A solid waste crisis that can no longer be ignored. We are simply running out of places to put our garbage. With your help, we can meet this new challenge as well. Source separation and recycling will save valuable space in our landfills and help protect our drinking water and the air we breathe. Together, we Americans can win the war against waste. Start recycling today.
Well, it's that time of year. We are officially less than 2 weeks away from the election, and more than 22 million Americans have already cast their ballot in the general election. According to a poll by the University of Maryland, 60% of registered voters have taken advantage of the early voting methods offered due to the coronavirus pandemic. In the 2020 election, 12 states offered mail-in voting, and 10 of those states automatically mail your ballot to you, no registration required. According to the Washington Post, 1 out of 5 of these early voters are voters that did not vote in the 2016 election. And the Post believes these voters are the ones that will determine the outcome of the 2020 election. In New York State, we have 3 voting options to choose from. First, you can apply for an absentee ballot, go to the polls days prior, or vote in the election, vote in person on Election Day. So voting obviously looks different this year, and that might cause some concern for some people. Well, Katie Lenda, a student in Dr. Angela McGowan-Kirsch's presidential campaigns class, is here to talk a little about how you can be sure your vote counts and why your vote matters. All right. Katie, thank you for being here today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Can you tell me a little bit about the presidential campaigns that are in your class this semester?
Sure, yeah. So presidential campaigns is a class taught by Dr. McGowan-Kirsch in the communication department. And the main idea of the course is that all the students create their own voter mobilization campaign to encourage the student body of Fredonia to get out and vote this election.
Gotcha. So what is your voter mobilization campaign on?
So my personal plan is the COVID-19 response. Some of the other options are climate change and student debt, upon others too.
Nice. So why did your group pick COVID?
We selected COVID because we felt that COVID is arguably the most pressing and crucial issue in this election.
What are some ways that you can vote this year?
So, like you said, you can vote in person on Election Day, on November 3rd, in the county that you're registered in, or you can vote by absentee ballot, which the last day to request that is October 27th. And then you can also do early voting in New York State, which opens on October 24th to November 1st.
You're right. I did already read that, but it's always good to hear things reiterated, especially something like this. Yes. So when is the deadline to send in your absentee ballot?
So it's October 27th.
Gotcha. Can you tell me a little bit about early voting? When does that start?
Early voting starts October 24th and ends November 1st.
Noted. So if students are looking for more information about voting options, where can they go other than to you?
They can check out whatever county they're from. So you can go to Erie County's website, or you can go to Chautauqua County's website, or wherever you live to find information about how and where you can vote.
All right, well, thank you, Katie. I'm sure a lot of people out there will find that information very useful.
Thank you.
So last week, instead of a face-to-face debate, President Trump and Joe Biden each had their own town hall events on separate networks, and they aired at the same time. George Stephanopoulos hosted with Biden on ABC, and a day before, NBC announced they would air Trump's town hall debate with Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie as the monitor. Both Stephanopoulos and Guthrie pressed the candidates when they dodged questions. Trump refused to answer whether he tested for coronavirus on the day of the first debate. Continued to dodge questions about where he stands on packing the court, but Stephanopoulos didn't let him off the hook. He was criticized for choosing to air at the same time as Biden's event, forcing people to choose or switch between the two. In terms of ratings, The Hill says that Biden won by about 800,000 viewers. Tomorrow, the two will be back on stage for an in-person debate moderated by NBC News reporter Kristen Welker. And this time, to avoid the chaos from the first debate, the candidates' microphones will be cut while the other one answers a question.
And when pressed by Savannah Guthrie to denounce QAnon conspiracy theories, President Trump refused he knew anything about it. The theory says Democrats run the world through a satanic pedophile cult. YouTube is the latest social media platform to crack down on the theory. In a blog post, the company says it will prohibit, quote, content that targets an individual or group with conspiracy theories that have been used to justify real-world violence, end quote. So videos that claim someone is connected with QAnon will be banned, but the news stories will be about the theory will remain. And while the theory started on 4chan and just spread to other platforms like Reddit and Twitter, YouTube perhaps played the biggest role in the spread. In the early days of QAnon, supporters of the theory produced documentaries and talk shows talking about the main beliefs of the movement. Many of these videos got millions of views and were shared across social media. This isn't the first time the online video giant has cracked down on conspiracy theories, but recently, as more social networks, including TikTok, take steps to target misinformation, they have gotten criticism from both parties. Democrats say that they aren't doing enough, while Republicans say they're censoring too much and are a threat to our free speech.
Satanic pedophiles, geez. For more than just the two presidential candidates, rising coronavirus cases in swing states are raising concerns for elected officials. States in the Midwest, such as Iowa and Wisconsin, are currently opening more early voting locations to avoid the issue of having poll workers back out last minute due to infection. Wisconsin broke its record for COVID-19 cases, deaths, and hospitalizations, and many other states are also on the rise. While early voting has been pushed to try and limit contact on election day, voters are complaining of hour-long lines where they are in close contact with hundreds of others trying to cast their ballot. This concern grows in states like Kansas, where voters are not required to wear masks. Many states, such as Ohio and Minnesota, are putting plans in place to make sure that there is plenty of personal protective gear, social distancing, and sanitization protocols. But elected officials are still encouraging citizens to vote early.
And for an update on your next check, there really is no update. This week, the confirmation of Judge Amy Coney Barrett is still on the top of the Senate's agenda. Senator Mitch McConnell warns Republicans not to go forward with the negotiations until after Election Day. McConnell said in a private conversation this past week that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is not negotiating enough with Treasury Secretary Mnuchin. Pelosi has been pushing forward with a $2 trillion relief fund to fund another round of $1,200 stimulus checks. With the Senate about to decide Barrett's confirmation, the stimulus check talk has been put on the back burner.
And in an unprecedented move, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration to stop the 2020 census count last week. Now, the decision technically only allows the count to stop temporarily. But since the deadline for the count is at the end of October, there really isn't time to get it restarted. This effectively stops the count for good. The court didn't give any reasons for this decision. This is a major win for the president, and many Democrats and local courts have criticized the order, saying it will give a highly inaccurate count. Trump also says that undocumented immigrants shouldn't be included in the census. But the Constitution says the count that happens only once every 10 years should include everybody living in the country. So now, on November 30th, the court is set to decide whether undocumented immigrants should be included in the census. If Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed this week, she would have a hand in the case.
And last week, thousands of Amazon employees signed a petition in favor of the company giving the workers paid time off so they can vote in this election day. Other companies like Apple, Coca-Cola, Walmart, and Facebook are giving their workers time off to vote. But even more than 1.3 million employees in the U.S., Amazon still does not pay their employees for paid time off during federal elections. The petition was created and released internally on Tuesday, and not even hours later, it had over 3,000 supporters. To sign the petition, workers had to submit a request through Amazon's internal ticketing system. This ticketing system is not only used for signing petitions, but also allows employees to request for a change in their company policies. And whether or not change in policies is on the radar for Amazon workers, we now go to Topher to talk about the radar for this weekend. However, Topher is not on our forecast for this newscast right now, so we're gonna throw it to Ryan.
Are we going to break, or?
No, I guess.
Okay. I'll just, oh, we are.
Different kinds of pipes that freeze for different reasons. To protect yours, wrap insulation around exposed pipes. If a hard freeze is forecast, open the doors under sinks and let the hot and cold faucets trickle overnight. Leave the heat on if you're leaving town. Following these steps can get you through cold weather on a high note.
During World War II, recycling was a way of life on the home front. Rubber, tin cans, cooking grease, paper, scrap iron, those and many more items were recycled for the war effort. It was a time of crisis. The nation desperately needed new sources of raw materials. Millions of Americans were united in a common cause. Today we face a crisis no less real, but of another sort. A solid waste crisis that can no longer be ignored. We are simply running out of places to put our garbage. With your help, we can meet this new challenge as well. Source separation and recycling will save valuable space in our landfills and help protect our drinking water and the air we breathe. Together, we Americans can win the war against waste. Start recycling today.
World Health Organization researchers have suggested that the antiviral drug remdesivir doesn't help coronavirus patients. This past summer, the study was done on 11,000 hospitalized patients, each randomly assigned one of 4 different therapies. The HWO recently found that none of the drugs patients received cut down reduced mortality or hospital stays. The remdesivir findings were a direct contrast with the New England Journal of Medicine. They found that COVID-19 patients recovered faster with the remdesivir compared to a placebo. The leader of the U.S. remdesivir study, Dr. Andre Khalil, claims the HWO study was poorly designed, which makes conclusions less reliable. Remdesivir's maker, Gilead Sciences, also released a statement that the results were inconsistent compared to more intensive studies. The drug has not been approved in the U.S. However, it is authorized for emergency uses. Remdesivir was one of the drugs President Trump received as a part of an experimental treatment or his COVID diagnosis. And now we jump to Kevin, my favorite person to talk about sports, especially the Bills with. So what do you got to say, Kevin?
Well, first, before we get to the Bills, the SUNYAC announced on Monday that all winter sports are canceled for this season. This comes a couple of weeks after they announced that hockey and men's and women's basketball would be starting on February 1st. Spring sports, however, are still on as of now. Fredonia State said in a statement, quote, "We realize this is a tremendous disappointment for Fredonia student athletes, their families, coaches, staff, and all who support Blue Devils athletics. The campus administration has approved for Blue Devils student athletes to continue with practices to the extent possible, and as long as each team continues to adhere to the safety and health expectations and protocols established by SUNY Fredonia and the Department of Athletics. We are doing this to keep student athletes engaged with their teammates and the sport they love. Again, all this will be done within established health and safety expectations. Accordingly, we are moving forward with the plans to open the natatorium and ice arena for our intercollegiate teams to practice. The natatorium and ice arena will not be available for other students, staff, or the public for the remainder of the semester. A decision on the availability of those venues for the spring semester will be made at a later date." News came out on Friday saying that the Buffalo Bills filed a trademark on October 12th that claims that the team is the owner of the term Bills Mafia and intends to sell Bills Mafia clothing. One of the original founders of Bills Mafia, Del Reed, said in a tweet Friday that the Bills and Pagula Sports and Entertainment have reached out to him and the other co-founders, Breon Harris and Leslie Willey, about working with them moving forward. And finally, in the MLB, the Los Angeles Dodgers took Game 1 of the World Series last night in Arlington as they defeated the Tampa Bay Rays 8-3. 6 out of the 9 starters had RBIs for the Dodgers, including Cody Bellinger, who got things started with a 2-run homer in the 4th inning. Clayton Kershaw earned the win on the mound as he gave up 1 run over 6 innings while striking out 8 and walking 1. Tyler Glasnow took the loss for the Rays. Game 2 starts tonight at 8:09, so just in a few minutes, as Blake Snell will take the bump for Tampa, while LA will send out Tony Gonsolin.
So you're telling me they trademarked the term Bills Mafia?
Yeah.
So what, we
It's
can't
like an official
use
thing
that?
now.
It's like the guy who tried to trademark the Happy Birthday song.
Well, the cool thing is, Del Reed, like I said, he was one of the original founders, and people were mad at first that the Bills were taken away from him because he runs 26 Shirts, which is a clothing company, and each purchase that they, whenever they sell some clothing, they donate money. But the Bills, like I said, they reached out to him, so I'm glad to see both sides working on this one here.
All right, well, in a changing the subject completely, holy cannoli, Kevin, somebody help the Zamboli. It seems to fit perfectly in the spirit of 2020 so far. A Zamboni caught fire in Rochester hockey rink last week. In a video that went viral, the ice resurfacer at Monroe Community College can be seen leaving a trail of red before going up in flames. A hydraulic hose broke and leaked fluid onto the ice. That's the red trail. The fluid from the hose started on fire from the exhaust pipe under the driver's seat. The driver was able to drive the Zamboni to a maintenance area while it was on fire. No one was hurt in the accident, and the driver was able to put out the blaze.
And the gourds are bigger than ever this time of year, and one Minnesota man's pumpkin was big enough to win the Super Bowl of pumpkins. Travis Ginger grew a 2,350-pound monster that he named Tiger King after the Netflix series because he noticed his squash might have stripes. He won $7 for every pound, so his prize total is $16,450 on his trip from Minnesota to the California contest. He wrapped the Tiger King in wet blankets and tarps and watered it down at gas stations. The Tiger King doesn't quite beat the record, though. In 2016, a man in Belgium set a world record of a 2,624-pound pumpkin. But another man in India did break a world record recently. In a video from the Guinness Book World of Records, an Indian martial artist smashed 50 coconuts in under a minute. But the fruits were precisely arranged around another person lying on the ground. All the smashed coconuts were fed to local animals, which is really sweet. It's good to break a record and help out the community.
What do you say, Hope? Coconut cream pie or pumpkin pie?
Oh, I'm a banana cream pie one.
Wasn't one of the choices I asked.
Well, it's my favorite, so.
All right. Well, let's hop to Topher with the weather.
Well, with two dreary days between today and tomorrow, by Friday we should be looking at a much better day for the most part, with highs in the early 70s. But after that, it's going to go back to what we're used to here in Western New York for our fall, with temperatures in the 50s for the rest of your weekend. Looking on to Monday, it's going to start raining again after an overall nice weekend. Back to you guys.
It's just rain, rain, rain.
I know, it won't go away, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like, you know, all this constant rain, it's like, it really has an effect on your mood.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us tonight at News 11, and we'll be back with more news. And thanks for tuning in, and thank you for our crew. Good night, everybody.